Hey there, Mish here. So, welcome to day three, I think, of our year of Trek. Um, Today we were watching the man or the man who never missed. Uh, One of my favorite books, Steve Perry. Look it up. Is the author. Anyway, Where No Man Has Gone Before and The Naked Time. So episodes 3 and 4. Now, Where No Man Has Gone Before is actually the second pilot. And why it ended up in as the third episode, I don't know. But and then, of course, The Naked Time. I don't know when that was filmed, but you can totally tell that Where No Man Has Gone Before is an earlier shoot because they're wearing all the same uniforms that they did in The Cage. And this is something I didn't point out in The Cage review because I forgot, didn't write it down. Got to write stuff down. I'm getting old. So is that not one red shirt? Didn't notice one red shirt. There were blue, there were gold, there were people wearing coveralls, but not gold, like, they were green or blue, whatever, but never red. So red actually didn't start until the actual production episodes. So just, and then of course, when it opens, it opens up and, of course, Spock and Kirk are playing chess, 3D chess. And I see in the background people in civilian clothes. And of course, they're kind of like, I guess they're in a rec room, I am assuming. And so kind of like maybe like 10 forward. So you have people off duty hanging out. So, and that's just a reference back to The Cage, because I noticed when Captain Pike was coming down one hallway, you had people walking in civvies. So anyway, brief synopsis. The Enterprise is going to leave the galaxy through the Great Barrier. And so they go but they first find this one. It was like a log buoy from the SS Valiant, and interesting numbers had come up. So he mentions that the SS Valiant had disappeared or had been sent off 200 years prior. And so, of course, canon has established that this is roughly 2265. So that 200 years would make it 2065. So we only have about 44 years to get a ship, the SS Valiant, out into space and disappear through the Great Barrier. Now, also, Khan should have shot off into the sky in 1990s, whatever. I can't remember what year specifically, but it is what it is. All proof that this is just a TV show. It's not real. Now, one thing I noted, the Great Barrier is it kind of looked like the energy ribbon from the Nexus, just the new CGI. And anybody, so if you're new to Star Trek, the reason that the CGI looks so good is because, I don't know, I think maybe 10 years ago, I think they redid all the CGI. I wouldn't say it ruined the show, but the authentic 1960s feel just kind of left. Yes. Seeing a better Enterprise around a better looking planet, seeing really nice screenshots on the viewer, that's cool, but I don't know. Whoever made that decision didn't ask me. So I would have voted against it. However, that being said, one of the little things that they threw up during Star Trek Day was a kind of a premiere of what they're doing with the movies, that they're bringing all of them to 4K, and the shot of the Enterprise inside V'ger compared to what it was to what it will be. Yeah, I need to buy a 4K TV. Like I have one, I own one, but it's on the wall in the dojo. But I don't have one for the main living room. So I think I need to do that. So new CGI is great. I don't know. I'm conflicted. So the one thing, and Nimoy did this in The Cage, and I bet I probably know why he was doing this, probably because the mics weren't that good and they needed to pick up sound, but he's always yelling on the bridge. Like, why are you yelling? Like, I actually wrote down, dude, Nimoy, what's with the yelling? I don't know. I think that's kind of funny. So it is currently stardate 1312.4. And it kind of goes through, it actually all accelerates all the way to the end of the episode at 1313. What did I write down? I think it's 1313.7 or 0.8 is how it ends, is the last call out. So let's see, other stuff that I kind of picked up on this. Okay, so when they talk about what is it, like ESP quotients, all that kind of stuff, I did a pause on the screen for Dr. Denier and Gary Mitchell, and their birth dates. It's interesting. So it has her birth date as 1089.5 and Gary Mitchell's 1087.7. Now it said age. Now I wasn't sure because I was looking, like it had like a little section for like mother, whatever, but it's off screen for both of them. And so I was like, okay, but it said her age was 21 and his age was 23. So, and of course you've got, a couple, 2 years, one is 9, the other is 7. So I was wondering if they were if they did that for age wise, and was that when they signed up? I don't know. So anyway, just a little thing. So of course, they try and cross the Great Barrier. Gary Mitchell gets zapped, along with, this doctor, and that's why ESP came up, because, the Valiant, their logs showed the captain doing searches for ESP. And of course, Gary Mitchell becomes a god, and then is totally talked about in the episode, in one of the new season episodes of Strange Energies of Lower Decks. So this is that connection. Now, of course, he's in the sick bay and he's looking through tapes, and Kirk comes in and they're talking, and basically I kind of wrote this down. He says, basically talking about their time at Starfleet. And of course, so it was Lieutenant Kirk. I can't remember like what they consider canon and who did what. I'm super Star Trek geek, but some of the stuff is like I either forgot it or I don't remember how it's set up. But the way they made it seem is that Lieutenant Kirk was a teacher at Starfleet. So, and that Gary was in his class. Anyway, so they're talking about this one gal, and he says that he aimed that little blonde lab technician towards him, and Gary did to Kirk, and that and he's like, "You did that?" And he goes, "Yeah." He says, "I outlined her entire campaign." And then Kirk is like, "I almost married her." So this is not, at least for me, I don't know if other people, this is not new. I think it's considered, at least among my friends, I'm not sure about, even Memory Alpha, the .com, whatever that thing is, but it's commonly accepted, at least in my circles, that this gal that they're talking about is Carol Marcus from Star Trek II. Now, I did some bad math. If it's considered 2265 and Star Trek II came out in 1982, which it would be considered 2282 in that time frame, because they kind of mirror the dates that way. It was easy for them. Then David Marcus, between 2265 and 2282, that's 17 years. So David would be at least 17 years old. Now, Captain Kirk took command of the Enterprise. It's generally accepted around, he was about 34 or 35 years old. So if we say he was a lieutenant, now he's a captain. Don't know how long it took him to get to captain, but maybe it's been 9 years, something like that, since Carol. Then that would make David Marcus about 25 or 26 years old in Wrath of Khan. Therefore, really, the Merrick Bertrick, I might be pronouncing that name wrong, the actor who played David Marcus, he was about that age, okay, when he played the character. So, and of course, if he's a scientist like his mom, being in your early 20s, that makes sense in this universe. It would also make sense that he would be 17 too, but David was definitely not 17 in Wrath of Khan. So he was definitely in his early 20s. But anyway, so if you were not privy to that information about that character being related to Carol, it's generally accepted that that is who they're talking about, even though Carol Marcus was not a character that they had used. And I don't think that the writers of Star Trek II really knew about this blonde. And they may have. They totally may have, because they did use Khan from the original series. So here's just another connection to make Star Trek II that more real for this universe. Now, going back on the dates, okay, and talking about Star Trek II, when they talk about the SS Valiant being, gone for 200 years or being launched 200 years ago, and by the time frame that we know as 22, as it being launched in 2065 or 2066, it really wasn't established truly that Star Trek was in the 23rd century until Star Trek II. So, because of course the opening, it says in the 23rd century, it really wasn't established until then. We just knew it was in a couple hundred years in the future, but we didn't know exactly when in the future it was. That's really when they established it and started coming up with the whole timeline. So the SS Valiant, it should have been more, when we open up to Star Trek II, it really should have been in the 24th century. But that's where all that time frame from. If you, the viewer to this podcast, did not know that, that's where it came from. So let's see, going on through another time thing. Elizabeth, the doctor, she says she's testing Gary on his memory. So she says, "Oh, read from this page of this book." So, he rattles off this thing and he mentions it as one of the most passionate love sonnets in the last couple of centuries, and called out the date of 1996. But then he also called it off that it was from another planet. I didn't catch the name of the planet. In that same scene, Lee Kelso, he kind of comes in. He starts out he's on the bridge when they go through the barrier and what's his name gets zapped. I wrote it. He totally reminds me of Trip from Enterprise. He totally reminds me of that character, minus the accent. Minus the accent. This is just, he just looks like he has that demeanor. He has the hair, I don't know. To me, just looks like Trip. Okay, another thing. So, of course, we know it's been established, and this is like the second Star Trek thing ever made. So I get it. But it's been established they don't use money, as we would know, in the future. But Sulu, when talking about Gary's power building exponentially, says he uses his analysis or his analogy with pennies. You compound it every day, and in a couple days you're a millionaire, or in a couple months you're a millionaire. So, yeah, I know. I'm just being, semantics. So they go this planet that we've never heard of before, Delta Vega, and then basically kind of, because the ship's ruined, it's broken, so they got to fix it, and they're like, yeah, we can't deal with Gary, so we're going to leave him on this planet. It just happens to be Delta Vega. Now, Delta Vega has shown up a couple of times in the Next Generation, as kind of like on the back screens. I did not know that until I did a little bit of research, because I was like, Delta Vega, that sounds really familiar. Isn't that the planet that they left Spock on, and Kirk on in Star Trek 09? Well, yes, that is true. That is it. But also, Delta Vega is a planet that they've used from time to time. So, I just have to I wrote down, phaser rifles have come a long way. And I've watched this show, I've been a fan most of my life. I really didn't know that was a phaser rifle. I never really I thought it was more of a laser rifle, but they actually call it a phaser rifle. Yeah, the designs have come a long way. And then of course, Gary is escaping from, he's trying to escape, and he knocks Kirk and Spock out. The doctor comes over, not McCoy. McCoy has not entered the scene yet. He was not in the show. And the doctor kind of lifts Kirk's head up and gives him a pill. What's the pill for? Like, I don't know. I don't get it. Is it aspirin? Did Kirk have a headache? I thought it was funny that even with all the technology and them doing all the CGI stuff for the show, that you can still see the black wire when he's got the rifle up on Gary, and Gary's like, whoosh, and the rifle is like, whoosh. You can actually see the black wire touching the rifle, and then the rifle going. I thought that was kind of funny. Gary, of course, has this big hole. It's going to be Kirk in there. And this has been a thing, because we all know James Tiberius Kirk, James T. Kirk. But of course, they had to retcon that, because initially it was James R. Kirk. And we get that from the whatchamacallit, the tombstone that was in this grave that Gary had for Kirk. And of course, it has his birth date of 1277.1 to 1313.7. So if he's 35 years old, not a lot of time has, actually, let's do some bad math. I didn't even think about this until now. 1313 minus 1277 is 36. So essentially each little one is supposed to be a year, but they don't do that in the episode, because it starts out at 1313.12 to 1313.8. Yeah, I don't think they thought that through very well. That's okay. Let's see. Okay, so then they have this big fight. And of course, there's Shatner and then his obvious stand-in. I know that that's a huge joke for Star Trek. It's obvious stand-in. Like, you totally know that that's not Bill. And then, of course, Shatner comes in, and, he actually did some of his own stunts, you could tell, but a lot of the bigger stuff, it was somebody else that totally did not look like him at all. And then, of course, Gary is killed conveniently by, or he's killed by a conveniently shaped rock. Because, of course, they both go in the thing. Kirk jumps out, goes, or pew, pew, pew. And this rock that is shaped like something that would fit in a hole kills him. And then, of course, we're going, and it's ended at 13.8. So that's that episode. Good episode. They talk about, power corrupts, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that, and that, yes, Gary would get powers very, very quickly, but would he actually gain the wisdom to use them correctly? And so there was some brain matter in this action-packed episode, but it was less cerebral than The Cage. So, and then we have Naked Time. Naked Time, specifically The Naked Time, not Naked Time, because I don't know. You have kids, they like to run around naked when they're little kids, and so you're like, Naked Time. So this is actually The Naked Time. It's not Naked Time. Stardate 1704.2. They are around Psi 2000, and basically the planet's going to go kaplooey. So Spock and what's his name? Joe. Do we ever get Joe's last name? I may have missed it, but the character's name is Joe. And I'm sure they always call these people by their last name. So I'm sure they said it. I just didn't write it down. Anyway, so Spock and Joe, they beam down. Joe gets infected because Joe has an itch on his nose. So he takes off his glove and he scratches his nose, and then the maracas come out. So something is going to happen. I actually wrote down this. You just know when you take your glove off to scratch your nose, something bad will happen. So, of course, they get back. They're fine. Computer doesn't see anything wrong with them. Of course, Joe definitely has something wrong with him. And now, if this happened on the Next Generation, which it actually does, they did a sister episode. We'll get to that in a couple months, or in about a month or so. But the way that Joe was acting, like, this just may be the hospital security guy in me. The way Joe was asking, like, Kirk was like, dude, yeah, I know it was a bad time. You had some trauma. Go chill out. You need to take a rest. I think that's what Kirk said. Like, this guy totally needed to see a counselor. You could tell that he had a little bit of trauma from beaming down and seeing people dead, frozen, clothed in a shower. So, yeah. Let's see. This is the first time we get to actually see the Vulcan neck pinch. According to my book, he performs the menagerie version. But the reason I didn't call it the Naked Time version is because technically, the Vulcan neck pinch had not been developed yet. This episode was filmed after the episode that they developed the neck pinch for. So that's why I didn't name it the Naked Time. But this is the first time you see it. And I didn't catch this when I was doing my research for the book. I didn't catch this the first time, but so Spock neck pinches Sulu because Sulu's, he's on the bridge with his fencing sword, and so he comes over, pinch, and Kirk kind of helps him to the ground a little bit. And Kirk says this, and I don't know why I didn't catch this initially, but I caught it this time. He says, "You'll have to teach me that sometime." And then it's kind of like a throwaway line. He just says it. He does bring it up in an episode, maybe second season, I think, Bread and Circuses, that, was it Bread and Circuses or was it Omega Glory? I can't remember what episode name it was, but he says, "It's too bad that you can't teach me that." And Spock replies, "I have tried, Captain." So maybe this was the beginning. Like, you're totally going to have to teach me that. And then he just wasn't able to teach him that. So maybe I have to might revise my book just a little bit, but still buy it anyway. We can always just do a notation later. Lots of talking. Got to have my Dutch. So one thing now I have to point out one thing about me. I like continuity. But I love Star Trek. Star Trek is not, there's no continuity, but I'm interested to see how do they, like, editing, like if you're going to have a clock in the background, how accurate is that clock going to be in future scenes? Like, because, I've done my own filming. Like, you shoot the same scene over and over and over again. Do you reset the clock? Like, is that going to be in the shot? So now at this time, of course, you've seen the episode. People are starting to go crazy. Riley, who the actor just passed away last week or the week before. But the actor who played Riley passed away. Don't know the actor's name. Can't remember. Forgot what day he died. But anyway, rest in peace. So Riley is down in the engine room. He's kind of taken over. And the planet has kind of done its shrinking and its big and its thing. And they weren't able to get the Enterprise to stay in sync. And so now the Enterprise is going towards the planet. So Spock says, "We have 17 minutes left." 17 minutes. Okay, they've given a time frame. Now, when he says we have 17 minutes until we blow up, essentially paraphrasing, we have 24 minutes left in the episode. Okay. 7 minutes left. That's a variation. So that would be about 7 minutes difference. Okay. So I'm like, okay, so there's my bar. So then when they say, he says, we have 16 minutes left, we have 22 minutes in the episode. They've gone down to 6. There's that 6. When they say 14 minutes left, we have 20 and a half minutes. That's 6.5. When he says 12 minutes, we have 18.5. So that's still keeping on the 6. They're doing pretty good. The 6 to 7, 6.5, that's not bad. That's not bad. And then when he says we have 8 minutes left, there's only 12 more minutes left in the episode. And I'm like, that's only a 4-minute difference. So there's a huge jump. And then when they say they have 6 minutes left, then there's 11 and a half minutes in the episode. So then of course it goes back up to 5.5 minute difference. So overall, I'll give them a C for timing. The episode was only filmed 55 years ago, so it doesn't matter. But just one of my nerd things that I like to do. I don't know why I do that, but I was like, ooh, they gave me time. Let me see how accurate this will be. So for the most part, they were pretty good. Maybe C plus, B minus. Yeah. Okay. So Nurse Chapel, she declares her love for Spock because she's got the maracas going in the background. She's been infected. Because they have Sulu in the whatchamacallit. So anyway, she confesses her love to Spock, infecting Spock. So now he goes on this little rampage in the conference room of dealing with his emotions. Now, here's a question. In 09, we established that Uhura, I'm talking Star Trek Kelvin universe, that Uhura and Spock are a thing. Now in the real universe, Spock never really gave Chapel the time of day. So we don't know if he and Uhura were still a thing, or were in a thing in the regular universe. Now, in Strange New Worlds, we get both. So excited. I'm so excited. We both get, and this spoilers. Hold on. Gotta do this. Quick spoiler for Strange New Worlds. If you haven't seen the whole thing, maybe go forward, maybe a minute. Anyway, so we get Chapel and we get Uhura in Strange New Worlds on the Enterprise. Is this going to be an issue? That's what I wrote. Will this come up? Will they try and retcon something? Because all three of them are on the same ship. How are they going to work that? So like, if they're like, okay, well, Spock had this thing with Uhura in 09, which later on she had a thing with Scotty in the movies. And she kind of flirts. She kind of flirts with Spock. She flirted with him in Charlie X. I forgot to mention that. She did kind of flirt with him. So maybe Uhura does Spock and they don't get along, so she goes over to Scotty. I don't know. It is what it is. I really hate to say that. Uhura is one of my favorite characters. And Nichelle Nichols, when she passes away, I will be completely distraught. So, anyway, just food for thought on that whole thing. Are they going to do the whole Spock and Uhura thing? And is Chapel going to have an issue with it? Okay. Kirk he eventually gets exposed, and they have minutes before the ship blows up. And so he's dealing with, what do they call it? Because I'm in love with my own ship. And he does all that kind of. So I wrote this down because I found this kind of humorous. He looks at McCoy and maybe it wasn't McCoy. Maybe it was Scotty when he comes into the briefing room and he goes, "Help." And for a second, I got that scene from Galaxy Quest where the aliens are looking at Tim Allen, and the one guy, Enrique, shoot, I screwed up his name. Anyway, he's like, "You are our only hope." It just, when Kirk said help, I totally flashed to that scene. I thought that was really funny. So they fix the ship, they implode the engines, however that works, and they end up getting away, but they end up time traveling back to the beginning of the episode. And so I mentioned, this was mentioned, time warp. We have the formula, so we could go back to any time, any planet. And Kirk is like, we may have to risk that sometime, or we may have to risk it sometime. Star Trek 4, Voyage Home, anybody? So, now, okay. So that was the episode. Kind of liked it. Don't know what message was there. Don't really care. I liked the episode. I've always enjoyed that episode for some reason. I think it's when the people get they get infected and they realize that they're infected and they start like rubbing their hands really tight and you can hear the maracas in the background. I don't know. I find that humorous. I do. So, one thing that I'm starting, and just because this stuff has come up, like my daughter, she wants to rewatch all the original Star Trek to make sure, just to see how much of a hoe Kirk is, which somebody's already done that. And in real, Kirk isn't really that much of a whore. He's kind of portrayed as one, but he's really not. He's really not. I have a document somewhere. I downloaded it from the internet. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep track of how many people die. I don't know if that's actually been done. I'm sure it has. This is probably not. There's a statistic out there. Don't ruin it for me. This will be our journey. This will be part of our Year of Trek journey. But at least for the original generation, I want to see how many people die. So in Charlie X, it was established 428 crewmen. Okay. The Cage, nobody died, but they were given a different number. So we're not going to really count that. We're going off the 428. In the Man Trap, 3 people died. 3 crewmen died. I think a 4th die, but I wasn't keeping track. I know that the Doctor dies. Carter dies, but he's not a crewman, so we don't count him. But I know at least 3 people die. We have that one technician, we have Green, and we have the one dude that thought that the salt monster was a hooker from that Pleasure Planet. So we have at least 3. Okay. And then Charlie X, technically nobody died, but Charlie did disappear a couple people, but the people fixed it. So that doesn't really count. We have a 0 for that. Where no man has gone before, episode from today, 3 people die. We actually have, of course, we have Gary and we have Dr. Denier, probably saying that wrong. And then what's his name? The guy I thought was that looked like Trip. Let me look at my notes. His name is Lee Kelso. So Lee dies. So we have 3 there. And then we have 1 because Joe, poor Joe, he ends up dying. So we start off, and yes, I'm sure Kirk gets new crewmen over time because of course they got to go to star bases and people are shuffled around, but we're just going to see how many people die. Let's see. So we start off with 428 and we subtract 7 minus 7. So our tally is 421. 420 souls. I don't know if I'm going to keep that up here. I might get a little grease board, kind of like in Battlestar Galactica, how they had how many souls were still alive. I think I might do that. That's going to be kind of cute. So we're at 421 souls. Okay, there we go. Hey, that was our Year of Trek today. Now, what are we watching tomorrow? So tomorrow is Saturday. We have, what's the rule? The rule is that Saturday is default 3 episodes. Okay. Because we're doing 15 episodes a week. So Saturday, because most people don't work on Saturdays, is a 3 episode day. So if you're only watching the shows on those days, 3 episodes. Now, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go to my computer and actually open up my calendar because I can't remember off the top of my head what they are. Okay, so for tomorrow, September 11th, never forget, we have Mud's Women, we have The Enemy Within, and we have What Are Little Girls Made Of? Okay, so we have technically episode 6, 5, or 5, 6, and 7. Why is it 6, 5, 7? I don't know why. Anyway, so Enemy Within, Mud's Women, What Are Little Girls Made Of? So we watched those 3 episodes. I pre-did one. I did a scheduled video for 6 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. My goal is to do that. I'm not really sure when I'm going to watch, because I haven't watched any of them. I might watch a couple tonight because I'm going to a comic book convention tomorrow. And not necessarily a comic book convention. It is the Rose City Comic Con. And when I had gone to this when I was younger, all it was comic books. Like it was just a comic book convention. It has grown. Now they have actors and all that kind of stuff. But Captain Sulu, George Takei, is going to be there tomorrow. I had my picture with George Takei, I don't know, probably 30 some years ago. I don't know. But my daughter is the same age as I was roughly when I first met George Takei. So I figured these guys, we missed some of them. They already passed on. He's going to be in Portland. Why not go get our picture with him? And if we can talk to him, say hi. And if he accepts a gift, I'm going to give him a copy of my Neck Pinch book. So anyway, so that's what's going to be happening today or tomorrow, 6 p.m. Watch the episodes, tune in. So I just created the Facebook page so I could promote these videos. But if you're on Facebook, look up Your Trek, like the page, follow the page. You can't like anything anymore, at least on the new one. So you can at least follow it. If there are any changes, I will update the page, or I'll update there. And then if I can, I'll update the little time thingy. So if you've actually clicked reminder, there you go. So there you go. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, live long and prosper.